The boy who couldn't stand the wind outside the camp was cold. Carrying the smell of burned metal and smoke, it had been weeks since the last battle. But the smell of war never truly left, inside a small tent near the edge of the human outpost. Ethan sat on his bed, staring at his useless legs. Once, they had carried him into the heart of battle. Running faster than most soldiers, now they were nothing but dead weight. A reminder of the day everything changed. The blast had come from nowhere. 1 second he was charging with his squad. The next he was on the ground, pain burning through. His body like fire. He remembered the screams, the confusion, the heat. And then nothing. When he woke up in the medical tent, the doctors told him the truth. His legs were gone inside, damaged beyond repair. He would never walk again. Some men in the camp gave him pitying looks. Others avoided him. To them, he was already halfway gone. A soldier who could not fight was as good as dead. Days turned into weeks, and Ethan's world became smaller, from the tent to the supply area, from the supply area back to the tent. He hated the feeling of being useless. At night, when the camp was quiet and most were asleep, he stared at the dark sky, wishing for something. Anything. To change. He didn't believe in miracles. Not anymore. That night, the wind was louder than usual. It made the tent walls tremble. Ethan lay on his bed, staring at the fabric roof, when he heard something strange. A sound that didn't belong in the human camp. It was low, deep. Like a growl, but softer. He thought maybe it was a patrol outside. Then he heard it again. A voice so deep it felt like the ground itself was speaking. It whispered his name, Ethan. He froze. His heart began to pound. No one in the camp spoke his name like that, slow, drawn out, almost like a song. He sat up, listening hard. The voice came again, a little louder this time, Ethan. His eyes darted to the tent flap. Beyond it, the night was black and endless. The camp's perimeter lights glowed in the distance. For a moment, he thought about calling a guard, but something inside him stopped him. The voice didn't sound human, but it didn't sound hostile either. It was strange. Almost gentle, he pushed himself into his chair and wheeled closer to the flap. The air outside was freezing. Biting at his skin, he scanned the shadows between the tents and the camp wall. That's when he saw it. 2 eyes, glowing, golden, and unblinking, staring right at him from beyond the fence. They were too high off the ground to belong to any human or even the alien beasts he had seen before. They were ancient eyes, old and knowing. His breath caught in his throat. The voice came again, but this time it wasn't just in his ears. It was in his head. Come to me. Ethan's hands gripped the arms of his chair. He should have been afraid. But instead, he felt a strange pull, like those eyes had been waiting for him for a very long time. He whispered, almost without thinking, "Who are you?" The eyes blinked. Once, slow and deliberate, the answer came in a single word, a word that sent a shiver through him. Dragon. His mind raced. Dragons were myths, stories told by older soldiers around the fire. They were said to have disappeared centuries ago, hunted to extinction by alien conquerors. But here one was, watching him, speaking to him. His voice shook. "What do you want?" The dragon leaned forward, and in the dim light, Ethan saw the outline of massive horns, the shimmer of dark scales, and the faint glow of heat coming from its mouth. Its answer was simple, yet unbelievable, to make you walk again. Ethan's breath hitched. He wanted to laugh, to call it impossible, but the dragon's gaze held him in place. No one else would believe this. No one else would even see this moment. It was only him, and the creature in the dark, before he could speak. A gust of wind rattled the fence, and the dragon's form melted back into the shadows. The golden eyes remained for just a heartbeat more, then vanished into the night. Ethan sat there, gripping His chair so hard his knuckles turned white. The cold bit into his skin, but he barely felt it. All he could hear was that voice in his mind. Low, deep, and impossible to forget. Come to me. He didn't know if it was real or if the war had finally broken his mind. But as he wheeled himself back into his tent, one thought burned brighter than fear. For the first time in weeks, he felt something he thought he had lost forever. Hope. The voice in the dark, the night after seeing the golden eyes. Ethan couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw them again bright, unblinking and ancient. He kept hearing that low voice echo in his head. Come to me. It wasn't just a memory. It felt alive, as if the words were still moving inside him. He told himself it was a dream, maybe a hallucination from too much pain medicine. But a part of him knew it wasn't. Morning came cold and gray. Soldiers moved around the camp, repairing damaged weapons and checking the perimeter. No one mentioned dragons. No one seemed to have seen or heard anything unusual. Ethan stayed silent, not sure if they'd call him crazy or a liar. He wheeled himself to the mess tent, but his hands trembled on the rims of his chair. The smell of burnt rations and cheap coffee filled the air. Someone passed behind him and muttered, "Poor guy." Under their breath, he clenched his jaw. They all saw him as broken, a ghost of a soldier. But last night had felt different. Something had called him, not with pity, but with purpose. When evening fell again, Ethan's heart began to race. Would it happen again? Would he see those eyes? Or had the moment already slipped away? The air turned colder as the camp settled into silence. The moon was hidden behind clouds, casting the land into near total darkness. Then, just past midnight, the voice returned, Ethan. This time it was closer, warmer. He turned toward. The sound froze. The golden eyes were back, but nearer than before. They seemed to glow with their own fire. He swallowed hard. You're real, he whispered. The dragon's voice filled his mind again. It's real as your pain. A sudden gust of wind carried the smell of ash and something older. Something like heated stone after rain. Ethan's hands tightened on his chair. What do you want from me? He asked. The dragon's form shifted in the dark, scales catching faint light like wet obsidian. Its long neck lowered until its eyes were level with his. I can give you your legs back. Human, the voice said slowly, but you must give me something in return. Ethan's chest rose and fell sharply. He wanted to believe. He needed to believe. But years of war had taught him nothing came without a cost. What kind of return? The dragon didn't blink. You will walk again, but not as you were. You will carry my mark, my strength, and my burden when the time comes. You will fight for me. Ethan's mind spun. Why him? Why a broken soldier who could barely move across a tent? The dragon seemed to hear his doubt. You are not as broken as you believe. It said, in you I see the same thing I once saw in my kin before they fell, a spark that will not die. He almost laughed. A spark? He felt like cold ash, but deep inside, under all the bitterness and self-pity, there was something still alive, and the dragon's words seemed to feed it. What's this fight you're talking about? He asked. The dragon's gaze turned heavy. There is a storm coming. Your people think the war is over. They do not see the shadow moving between the stars. When it comes, humans and dragons will fall together, unless we stand as one again. Ethan's throat was dry. He had heard stories of dragons in old war tales, creatures of fire and sky that fought beside humans long ago. But those were myths, weren't they? He looked at the beast before him, and knew they weren't. Still, a voice in his head whispered, this could be a trick. What if I say no? He asked, testing the dragon. Its eyes narrowed slightly. Then you'll remain as you are. The war will come, and you will watch it from the ground as the world burns. Silence hung between them. The cold bit through Ethan's jacket, but he barely felt it. He thought of his useless legs, the pity in the soldier's eyes, the endless waiting. He thought of running again, of standing tall, of being part of something bigger than himself. Finally, he said, "What do I have to do?" The dragon's teeth glimmered in the dark. "Tomorrow night. Come to the old watchtower beyond the ridge. Come alone, tell no one, or the gift will be lost." Its massive body shifted back into the shadows, moving with impossible grace for something so large the golden eyes held him for a final moment. "Remember, human," it said, "the choice you make will shape more than your life." And then it was gone. Ethan sat there long after the night swallowed the dragon's form. His hands were still shaking, but it wasn't from fear. It was from the spark the dragon had spoken of, a spark that was beginning to burn. The dragon's bargain the following day felt longer than any Ethan could remember. He barely noticed the soldiers around him, the chatter, the metallic clang of tools, or the endless hum of generators. Every sound was drowned out by the echo of the dragon's words in his head. "Tomorrow night, come to the old watchtower. Come alone." By afternoon, Ethan's mind was a battlefield of doubt and hope. Part of him feared it was a trick, a hallucination from the pain and the loneliness. Another part clung to the possibility. No matter how impossible it seemed, the thought of walking again was enough to make his heart race. But it wasn't just about standing, it was the way the dragon had looked at him, like it needed him. When the sun began to sink, Ethan made a decision. He gathered a small pack, just water, a flashlight, and a few ration bars. He didn't want to carry anything that might slow him down. Not that he could move fast in a wheelchair, but something in him felt lighter tonight. He told no one where he was going. If anyone saw him leave, they'd probably drag him back, calling him reckless or insane. The watchtower was an old ruin on a ridge north of the camp. It had been abandoned years ago after alien artillery crippled its structure. To get there, Ethan had to cross rough terrain. But he knew a narrow path through the scrubland. The night was quiet, except for the wind. His wheels crunched softly over the dirt every few minutes. He stopped to listen, half expecting to hear footsteps behind him, but no one followed. By the time he reached the ridge, the moon had broken through the clouds. The watchtower stood ahead, a jagged silhouette against the pale sky. Its stones were cracked, its top half crumbled. It looked like something from another world, forgotten, broken, yet still standing. And then he felt it. A shift in the air. The warmth, the same strange heat that had touched him the night before. He turned his head and saw them, those golden eyes, watching from the shadows. "You came." The dragon's voice filled his mind. It stepped forward into the moonlight. Ethan saw more of it now. Enormous wings folded against its back, scales that shimmered like black glass streaked with veins of molten gold. Its claws dug into the earth with every step, but it moved with the quiet grace of a predator. Ethan's voice was unsteady. "I almost didn't, yet you are here." The dragon replied, lowering its head until its eyes met his. "That means you are ready to make the bargain." Ethan swallowed hard. "What exactly are you offering? And what exactly do you want from me?" The dragon's gaze deepened. "I will give you the ability to walk again. Stronger than before. But this is not a gift without purpose. You will bear my mark. My fire will live in you. When the day comes, you will fight beside me against an enemy greater than any you have faced." "What enemy?" Ethan asked. The dragon's wings shifted slightly, as if a shadow passed through its memory. "They are called the ash vultures," it said, "scavengers of worlds, destroyers of skies. They are coming for your people. And mine, I have seen their ships moving between the stars. They burn everything they cannot use, and they are closer than your leaders believe." Ethan's chest tightened. He thought of the war he had already survived, the battles, the deaths. The idea of a new, worse enemy was almost too much to believe. But the dragon's voice carried a weight that felt older than any lie. "Why me?" he asked quietly. The dragon tilted its head. "Because you have nothing left to lose. And because you still have the courage to fight for something greater than yourself. That courage is rare, even among those who can walk." Ethan looked down at his legs, useless and still. "And if I say no?" The dragon's voice dropped. "Then you will remain as you are. The choice will be yours. But the shadow will come whether you stand to face it or not." Silence stretched between them. The wind whistled through the cracks in the tower walls. Ethan's fingers tightened on his chair. He thought of the pity in the eyes of the soldiers, the endless waiting, the hopeless nights. Then he looked at the dragon, the impossible, living proof that there was still wonder and danger in the universe, and he knew his answer. "What do I have to do?" he said, his voice steady now. The dragon's eyes glowed brighter. "Take my fire," it said. It leaned closer, opening its jaws slightly, and Ethan felt a wave of heat wash over him. The air shimmered between them as the dragon's breath glowed with a strange golden light. "This will hurt," the dragon warned. "But when it is done, you will walk again, and you will no longer be just a man." Ethan took a breath. "I'm ready." The dragon's gaze locked with his in this moment. "You become part of something greater. Do not break the bargain, human, or the fire will consume you." The dragon inhaled deeply, the ground vibrating under its power. Then it exhaled not flame, but a stream of glowing energy that rushed toward him like liquid sunlight. It struck his chest, burning through his body like molten metal. Ethan gasped, clutching his chair as fire and light spread down into his legs. The pain was like nothing he had ever known. But beneath it, something else grew strength, and for the first time in months, he felt his toes move. Fire and pain to fire hit Ethan like a living thing. It wasn't just heat, was alive, moving inside him. Racing through his veins like molten rivers, every nerve in his body screamed. But the dragon's voice cut through the pain. "Do not fight it, human. Let it burn what is weak." Ethan gritted his teeth until his jaw ached. The golden light flooded from his chest to his legs. He felt muscles twitch that had been dead for months. He felt bones ache as if they were being reforged from the inside. His hands clamped down on the arms of his chair, knuckles white. The pain was so sharp, so deep, that it seemed to blur his vision. Flashes began to fill his mind, not his own memories, but something older. He saw a sky filled with wings, dozens of dragons flying in formation, their scales glinting in the sunlight. Beneath them, human soldiers marched, banners waving. They fought together not as master and servant, but as equals. Then the vision shifted. The sky burned red, strange ships descended like vultures, their shadows blotting out the sun. Dragons fell from the sky, pierced by weapons that glowed with sickly green energy. The humans below screamed as fire rained down. And in the middle of it all, Ethan saw himself, standing in armor that shimmered with gold, a blade in his hand. Beside him, the dragon roared. The vision shattered, and he was back in the watchtower ruins. The heat still poured into him. The smell of scorched air heavy around them. His breathing was ragged. What was that? He managed to gasp. The dragon's voice was calm but heavy, a memory. And a warning: the fire carries more than strength, carries the truth of what came before. And what will come again? The pain surged again, worse this time. It felt like claws tearing through his muscles from the inside. He cried out, his voice echoing in the night. But beneath the agony, there was something else, a pulse, a steady rhythm in his legs, like the heartbeat of the dragon itself had joined with his own. The dragon moved closer, lowering its massive head until its breath washed over him. "Stand," it commanded. Ethan's first instinct was to laugh. How could he stand when his legs had been dead for so long? But the fire inside him pushed against his doubt. He gripped the arms of his chair. His arms shaking, slowly, painfully. He shifted forward. His feet touched the ground in a way they hadn't in months, not just resting there, but holding weight. He gasped. Then, with every ounce of strength he had, he pushed himself up. It was clumsy, uneven, and his knees threatened to buckle. But he was standing. The fire inside his legs roared like a furnace. His skin prickled as if every cell was. Waking up for the first time, the dragon's eyes glowed brighter. Good. Now walk. He took a step, his body trembling. The first step was agony, like knives cutting into his calves. The second was worse, his thighs burned. His balance wavered. By the third step, his vision blurred from the pain, but he didn't stop. Somewhere deep inside, the spark the dragon had spoken of earlier had become a flame. And that flame refused to let him fall when he finally collapsed to his knees. Gasping, the dragon didn't move to catch him. Instead, it lowered its head until its gaze was level with his. You have taken the first steps. From this moment, your body will grow stronger each day. But the fire must be fed. Ethan swallowed, his throat dry. What do you mean, fed? The dragon's voice deepened. It is not just muscle and bone that has changed. You carry my mark now. You will heal faster, run farther, strike harder. But if you turn away from the path you have chosen, the fire will consume you from within. Ethan met its gaze. He wasn't sure if it was a warning or a promise. Either way, he wasn't going back to the tent and the pitying stares. He wasn't going back to being forgotten. The dragon slowly stepped back, spreading its wings slightly. You are no longer the boy who could not stand. You are my chosen. When the shadow comes, you will be ready. Ethan stood again, this time without the chair. The night wind hit his face, and for the first time in months, he felt taller than the walls around him. The pain was still there, deep and constant. But beneath it, he felt something stronger. Power. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but as the dragon melted back into the darkness, its golden eyes watching him until the last second, Ethan knew one thing. The war that was coming wasn't just for survival. It was for everything, and now he could fight. The hidden war. The next morning, the camp felt smaller to Ethan, not because it had changed, but because he had. He walked slowly between the tents, each step heavy but steady. No one noticed at first. Most were too busy with their routines. But when a soldier finally looked up and saw him moving without the wheelchair, their eyes went wide. Ethan. They whispered. He didn't answer, just kept walking, his mind far from the camp. The dragon's words echoed inside him. There is a storm coming. The ash vultures are near. He had never heard that name before, not in all his years of military service, but the visions the dragon had forced into his mind were burned into him as clearly as his own memories. They weren't just raiders, they were something worse. They didn't take land or demand tribute. They destroyed everything, leaving behind nothing but ash. By midday, Ethan had slipped away from the camp, heading for the ridge where the old watchtower stood. The dragon was already waiting, its golden eyes fixed on the horizon. The wind caught its wings slightly, making the massive membranes ripple like sails. You came, it rumbled. Ethan stopped a few paces away. You said, "There's a war coming. Why don't our leaders know about it?" The dragon turned its head slowly. They know of threats, but not this one. Your leaders fight what they can see. The ash vultures hide in the dark between stars. By the time they reveal themselves, it is too late for most worlds. Ethan frowned. Then, how do you know? The dragon's gaze hardened. Because I have seen them before. Long ago, before your people even left their home world. They came for mine. We fought. We burned their ships from the skies. But they returned stronger. We learned then what they Truly are they consume strength. Every battle they lose, they adapt. Every enemy they face, they learn from. They do not fear loss. They only grow. Ethan's stomach tightened. So they've beaten you before. The dragon's voice was low. They have beaten everyone before. The only reason I live is because I swore I would not die until the fire had a new bearer. Ethan shifted his weight. You mean me? The dragon nodded. You are the first. Human I have marked. My fire will make you faster, stronger, and harder to kill. But you are still young in its use. We have little time to prepare. Ethan stepped closer. What do you want me to do? The dragon's eyes narrowed. You must carry a warning to your leaders, but you must not tell them how you know. If they believe the words come from a dragon, they will ignore it. Humans forget quickly. They have forgotten the last time our kind stood together. Ethan thought of the camp. Of the commander who barely looked him in the eye anymore. They're not going to listen to me. I'm just a broken soldier who suddenly isn't broken anymore. They'll think it's suspicious. The dragon's jaw tightened. Then you must show them when the first vulture scouts arrive. You will meet them before anyone else. You will fight them and return with proof. The idea of facing an enemy like the one in his visions made his chest tighten. But he nodded. I can do that. I'm not going to sit and watch another war destroy everything. The dragon studied him for a moment longer. Then it extended one massive claw, its talon pressing into the dirt. It carved a strange symbol into the ground, 3 lines intersecting a circle. This is the mark of the fire-bearer. If you must show anyone, show them this. It will mean nothing to them now, but when the time comes, they will remember. Ethan stared at the symbol, committing it to memory. The wind carried the scent of rain and distant smoke. He looked back up at the dragon. What about you? Will you be there when they arrive? The dragon's wings shifted. I will fight, but not in your cities. The fire chooses the battlefield for its bearer. You will be where you are needed most, and sometimes that will mean standing alone. The thought sent a chill through him. But he had made the bargain. There was no turning back. As he began the walk back to camp, the dragon called after him. Ethan, you must understand, the ash vultures will not just attack your soldiers, they will burn your skies, poison your food, and break your people's spirit. They will make you wish you had surrendered, and then they will take even that choice from you. Ethan turned, meeting the golden eyes one more time. Then they'll have to kill me first, he said. The dragon's teeth showed in something that might have been a smile. Good. That is the fire speaking, as Ethan disappeared into the night. The symbol burned in his mind, and somewhere deep inside, he could feel the fire in his veins pulse. Like it was waiting for something, something close, something coming fast. Betrayal in the camp the next few days felt like walking on thin ice for Ethan. He moved through the camp without his wheelchair now. Each step steady, but still painful. Everywhere he went, people stared. Some whispered behind his back, others openly questioned how a man who could never walk again was suddenly moving like a soldier. At first, Ethan ignored it. He focused on strengthening his legs, on keeping the fire alive inside him. The dragon's voice was never far from his mind, its deep, steady tone reminding him that he had a purpose. But the stares turned into suspicion, and suspicion turned into questions. One evening, as he returned from gathering supplies near the camp's edge, 2 soldiers blocked his path. They were men he knew from his old squad, Baker and Miles. Baker crossed his arms, his tone sharp. You're going to tell us how this happened? Hey, Ethan, last month, you couldn't move without a chair. Now you're walking around like nothing ever happened. Ethan kept his face calm. I got better, he said flatly. Miles laughed without humor. Don't play games. We heard reports of strange lights near the old watchtower, and guess who we saw headed that way? You. Ethan's jaw tightened. This was dangerous territory, too close to the truth. "I don't have to explain myself to you," he said. Stepping past them, Baker's hand shot out, gripping his shoulder. "You do if you've been talking." To the enemy, the word enemy hit like a blade. "I'm not a traitor," Ethan said coldly, knocking Baker's hand away, but the damage was done by nightfall. Whispers had spread through the entire camp. Ethan was working with something out there, something not human. The next morning, he was called into the commander's tent. The air inside was thick with tension. The commander stood behind his desk, his expression like stone. "Sit," he ordered. Ethan didn't. "I hear you've been leaving camp without permission," the commander began. "Visiting restricted areas." Ethan said nothing. The commander stepped closer, eyes narrowing. "And now you can walk again. No doctor here can explain it. So either you're hiding something, or you've made a deal with something we'd call an enemy." Aftis, fists clenched at his sides. "I'm not hiding anything that will harm this camp," he said. "That's not enough," the commander replied. "You'll remain under guard until I decide what to do with you." Two soldiers stepped forward, hands on their weapons. The fire inside Ethan flared hot. If they locked him up now, he'd never be able to prepare for the ash vultures, and the dragon's warning would be for nothing. "I can't stay here," Ethan said, his voice low. The commander frowned. "You don't have a choice." That's when it happened. The air outside the tent shifted. A distant, heavy thud echoed through the camp. Then another, closer. A sound Ethan knew instantly: massive wings, beating the air. The soldiers froze. Shouts erupted outside. Something huge passed over the camp, its shadow swallowing the firelight for a heartbeat. The commander rushed to the tent entrance, but Ethan was faster. He slipped past the guards and into the open, above them, against the silver of the moon. The dragon soared, its wings cut through the clouds, its golden eyes locked on him even from a distance. A deep voice rumbled in his mind, urgent and commanding. "Now, human, leave or be caged." The soldiers shouted his name, some raising their rifles, a few fired, but the dragon dove low, a gust of wind from its wings knocking men off their feet. Ethan ran the fire in his legs, giving him speed he hadn't known in years. He darted between tents, past the edge of camp, and into the darkness beyond the perimeter. The dragon landed ahead of him, its talons sinking deep into the soil. "Get on it," ordered. Ethan didn't hesitate. He grabbed one of its neck ridges and pulled himself up. The dragon launched into the air, the ground falling away in seconds. The wind roared past his ears, the camp shrinking into a patch of light in the distance. As they rose higher, Ethan looked back. Tiny figures were still running, still shouting, but they couldn't reach him now. "They think I'm a traitor," Ethan said over the rush of wind. The dragon's voice was steady. "Let them. Better a traitor in their eyes than a prisoner when the shadow arrives." Ethan gripped the dragon tighter. The betrayal-stung knees were his people, his comrades. But they wouldn't believe the truth until it was too late. The dragon angled toward the dark mountains. "We go to the high caves," it said. "There. I will show you how to use the fire before the first scouts arrive." The night swallowed them as they left the camp behind. Ethan didn't know when nor if he'd ever return. But one thing was clear. When he did, it wouldn't be to defend himself from accusations. It would be to defend them from something far worse. The name that changed everything. The high caves smelled of stone and rain. They were hidden deep in the mountains, far from any patrol path. Ethan had been training there for days under the dragon's watchful gaze. Every morning, they practiced running, climbing, striking with weapons the dragon had unearthed from some forgotten stash. By night, they spoke of the coming war. The ash vultures were close now, moving through the black between stars. It wouldn't be long before they struck. Ethan's legs felt stronger than ever, the fire burning in him like a second heart. Each time he moved, he felt the dragon's power flowing through his muscles. But along with the strength came a strange sense of connection. Sometimes he could sense the dragon's thoughts before it spoke. And sometimes, when the wind shifted, he felt danger approaching before it arrived on the 5th night. The dragon woke him with a sharp growl. "They are here," it said. Ethan rose instantly, heart pounding, through the cave mouth. He saw lights in the distant sky, green, shifting, and wrong. They moved like hunting birds, circling, narrowing their path. The first scouts, the dragon rumbled. "They test your skies before they burn them." Ethan grabbed his gear without hesitation. "What's the plan?" The dragon's golden eyes narrowed. "We strike before they see the heart of your people. If one escapes, the whole swarm will follow." Minutes later, they were airborne. The mountains fell away beneath them as the cold night air whipped past. Ethan's face, the green lights grew larger. 3 sleek ships, their hulls jagged like talons. They moved silently, scanning the ground below. Ethan felt the fire inside him stir like it was alive, pushing him toward them. The dragon dove without warning, its wings slicing the air. Ethan gripped its neck ridges as they closed the distance in seconds. The first ash vulture ship turned, its sides splitting open to reveal glowing weapons. Ethan didn't need the dragon's warning. He could feel the danger before the blast came. They rolled left, a beam of green energy tearing past them. The heat singed Ethan's cheek, but they were still alive. "Hold!" The dragon roared. It unleashed a stream of golden fire. The heat so intense it turned the air white. The blast struck the ship's wing, tearing through metal like paper. The vessel spiraled down, exploding against a distant ridge. The other 2 ships broke formation, one climbing high, the other diving low. "They split us," Ethan shouted. "Then we split them," the dragon replied, banking hard toward the higher ship. Ethan's heart raced. The second ship's weapon ports glowed, ready to fire. Without thinking, Ethan pulled a small throwing blade from his belt, a gift from the dragon during training, forged from its own shed scale. As they passed close, Ethan hurled it with all the fire-fueled strength in his arm. The blade punched into the ship's side, and a split second later, the metal erupted in golden flames that weren't entirely of this world. The ship lurched, engines screaming, then vanished in a burst of light. The last ship turned to flee. Ethan's instincts burned. "They'll warn the others," he shouted. The dragon roared, pumping its wings. "We end it now." They gained on the retreating vessel, the wind howling around them. The ship dove low over the foothills, trying to use the terrain to break pursuit. But the dragon was faster. With one final surge, it came alongside. Ethan could see the alien pilot through the reinforced glass, its face sharp, its eyes black and pitiless, for a heartbeat. Their gazes locked. Then Ethan spoke the word the dragon had taught him, the one it had said would bind his fire to action. The name that was more than a name, the name that carried the weight of their bargain and the force of the dragon's power. Carthun. The dragon roared with a fury that shook the hills. Its fire struck the ship full on, melting its front in an instant. The craft hit the ground in a blossom of heat and light, the shockwave rattling the stones beneath them. Silence followed, deep, heavy and final. The sky was empty again. The green lights gone, the dragon slowed, circling back toward the mountains. "You have spoken my true name," it said, its voice quieter now. "That makes you more than my chosen. You are my bonded Ethan." Let the words sink in. It didn't just feel like a victory. It felt like the beginning of something bigger, something unstoppable. If they stood together by the time they returned to the camp outskirts. Soldiers were already outside, weapons raised. The commander stood at the front, eyes narrowing as he saw Ethan riding on the dragon's back. For a moment, no one moved, Then Ethan slid down, landing on his feet with steady legs. He didn't shout, didn't try to convince them with words. He simply pointed to the burning wreckage in the distance. "They're coming," he said. "And if you want to survive, you'll fight with us." The commander's gaze flicked from Ethan to the dragon and back again. No one spoke against him this time. No one called him a traitor, because they had all seen what he had done. The dragon lowered its head toward him. "You carry my fire now, Ethan." It said so only he could hear. "And when the swarm comes, you will carry my name into battle." And in that moment, Ethan knew he was no longer the boy who couldn't stand. He was the bridge between two worlds, and the war ahead would remember both of their names.